It's 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, voter registration weekend. It's Topical starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, and those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience with us tonight. It's good to have them on the program. Just looking forward to getting their questions for our guests in a short while. And at the top, mind my voice. It's the last kicks of the flu, so hopefully it'll get better as the show progresses. The value of voting. The Electoral Commission's General Registration Weekend. It's part of the program for the preparation of the 2024 national and provincial elections. Significant. Why? It allows for an increase in the coverage of the voters' roll in all dimensions. At the close of day one of registration weekend, over 1 million registrations were recorded. By midday today, over 600,000 had been recorded. What does that tell us about how eager South Africans are to vote in next year's elections? We will find out. Our population has grown to 62 million. That's according to Census 2022 results. Of that, an estimated 39.7 million are of voting age. The voters' roll currently stands at 26.2 million, and that represents about 66% of the estimated voting age population. Where's the rest? How do you close that gap? How close can we get to the maximum voter participation? What are the factors that influence whether you vote or not? We will discuss. Which leads us to the question of the week. And we ask you, what has been your experience of the voter registration process in your community this weekend? We'd love to hear from you. Let's walk and talk, get you some context as always. Service delivery issues, right? Bread and butter issues. Material, important. But to what extent would it get you up on your feet and take you to the polls? What are the drivers of greater voter participation? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Perspective coming up. Let's get you context, and as always, return to the magic wall. What we know and why it matters. My guest tonight, Maswile Ralibona, specialist researcher here at the SABC. Hand bumps, my brother. I don't want to get you sick. We need you fit and healthy for this period, right? All right, let's give the viewers some context with regards to the overview of the election process, right? I want to take you here. When? Let's get a sense, or give the viewers a sense of when can we expect the elections?
Blaine, the Constitution gives Parliament between 90 days after the dissolving of Parliament. In this case, we had elections on May 8, May 8 in 2019. So we're counting 90 days between May and August of 2024. You will remember what happened in 2021 when some, including the IEC, tried to ask the Constitutional Court to postpone the date of the elections, and then they were told elections must still be held within 90 days. So we are sure that within 90 days, between May and August, elections will be held in South Africa.
And this is what's at stake, right? 400 seats. Now, it's going to be historic. Independence contesting in terms of national provincial. How does that change the calculus?
So you will remember that in 2020, one of the interested parties took the IEC, or the Electoral Act, for review in the Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court found that the current, or the Electoral Act that was adopted in 1996 was invalid and unconstitutional because it only provided that you must join a political party as an individual. You must join a political party for you to contest the elections. So the Constitutional Court gave the Parliament 24 months or 2 years to correct or to amend the Constitution, the Electoral Act, in which early this year in April, our President Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law the new Electoral Amendment Act 17 of 2023, in which this time around, we are going to have, out of 400 seats in Parliament, we are going to have 200 of them being contested by the independent candidates plus political parties, whereas the other 200 will be contested by political parties only. So in other words, political parties have a chance. This new political electoral act gives political parties a bigger chance of getting seats in Parliament, because they will contest all 400, but independents can only contest 200.
Now, in terms of voting trends and how South Africa voted in the last national elections, 2019. So this is the breakdown in terms of female and male.
Yes.
Reflective, I guess, of the 2022 census results, where it tells us that there's more females than males in South Africa. But are there any factors at play here that change that calculus?
If you look at the current voters' roll, you will find that 55% of population in that of registered voters is female, and then 45% is male. Then it tells you about the desire of seeing change, maybe, or the desire to participate in these mass electoral processes in South Africa.
What about this age group here, the 70 to 79? Look at that, it's 60 compared to 39% in terms of female male. So what do we read?
So the IEC, in the last time when they were having a workshop, they told us more about these ones, to say 18 to 19, 80% of them who are registered, they go to the voting station on the day of the elections. And then when we go down, we find that there's also this group Blaine here, which is problematic, in which IEC is saying, if we can get this group, because there are more, there's more of them in the voters' roll. If we can get them to vote, it can change a lot, because IEC always, when they go to these elections, they are also chasing the turnout, which is very much important to say. Out of all South Africans, now we are sitting at 62. Out of 62, and only those, when we look at those who are in the voters' roll, how many of them actually stands up on the day of the elections and go and vote, which is very important.
Well, let's speak about it. These are the turnout in terms of the national elections from 99. I covered most of these except 99, which was the highest in terms of the voter turnout, right? Almost 90%.
Yes.
This is the last one, 66%. What does that tell us?
This tells us that we must be worried as a country, because how come from 89% in 1999 and then now we are sitting at 66%? Should we go ahead and expect the turnout to go down in 2024? So what the IEC is doing, or the political parties, if you saw yesterday when political parties were on the voter registration campaign, is to try and get everyone to come in and participate in this important democratic process.
Well, there's signs of hope, right? When we looked at some of the numbers from yesterday, over 1 million registered. Today at about midday, over 600,000. These are the provinces, and you can see Gauteng with the highest, Northern Cape with the lowest. But as again, if we go back to the census 2022 results, Gauteng has the highest province population. Northern Cape has the smallest population. So I wonder if it's all relative, or are there other factors there?
I think you're putting it well there, talking about Gauteng, because if you check the voters' roll now, you find that out of in Gauteng alone, in the city of Johannesburg, they have 2.1 million, more than 2.1 million voters in the city of Joburg alone. And then you also have Ekurhuleni, which is around 1.8 million. And then you've got places like the Western Cape, which I think is number 3 in the voters' roll in terms of registered voters, in which in the Western Cape, 63% of of registered voters are in the city of Cape Town. Then you have a smaller province like your Northern Cape with only over 600,000 registered voters.
Just go back to Western Cape. You said how many % of the registered voters in Cape Town?
It was at 63%,
so
Cape Town alone.
You would assume that independents and political parties will be hyper-focusing on the city of Cape Town come this elections.
It shows that if you want to win the Western Cape, you must really work the ground in the city of Cape Town. It's very important, given the numbers there.
Good to have you, better man, in the program, Maswile.
Thanks.
All right, context important as always. We will further discuss all this, what it means. We've got the IEC here tonight. Maswile Ralibona is a specialist researcher here at the SABC. All right, on to our regular Word on the Street feature. We took to the streets of Johannesburg to gather diverse insight and perspectives on the upcoming elections and the registration process. This is what you had to say. Watch.
I'm registered to vote. I think the upcoming elections are really important. It's 20 years since our first democratic election, and I think these are big elections in terms of getting things right for the next 20 years.
I am very eager to vote. As a young person in this country, it's hard not to see how young people are affected by the politics of or the politics that are happening around us. So I think it's important, and that's why for me it was very important to register to vote.
I'm very eager to vote. I've already registered, so I'm very excited to vote as well, because this is my first time voting in a national election.
I am registered to vote, and I'm hoping that everything goes peacefully and smoothly next year, but I'm hoping for a change.
I think it's really important to vote. I know a lot of young people don't, but I am registered, and I think it's important to make your mark.
I do recognize that we have to participate in the political sphere if we want change. So I think it's important for kids, listen to your parents and participate, register to vote. The only way change can occur is if we participate and contribute to that.
That's a good point, right? Kids, listen to your parents and go and vote. I hope the parents are listening as well. We need everybody to vote in these upcoming elections. All right, let's discuss. We've got a limited amount of time, lots to discuss. A number of guests to break this down as well. We have Mosotho Moepya, IEC Chairperson. Good to have you on the program, sir. We also have Asanda Ngoasheng, political analyst. Our digital audience are here. Please participate. Raise your hands if you have any questions. We'll get to you as soon as possible. Sir, numbers coming out.
Good.
At midday today, you recorded about 1.6 million together with yesterday, right? Registrations. Yesterday, the Commission recorded an all-time milestone of over 100,000 online registrations. So today, the figure on online registration stands at 40,000. What does that tell us about the eagerness of South Africans to vote?
Well, first of all, we must say thank you to all South Africans, especially those that have taken the call seriously to register or to check their details. 3 categories of people have visited us over this weekend. The first one are those that we're just checking their details. They haven't moved. They just want to be sure that they're on the roll. The second one is a category of people that are registering for the first time. The third one are those that have moved and we're changing their details.
Right.
So in terms of the 3 categories, we talk about registration activity.
Yeah.
But what really adds to the number, and every one of them is important, by the way, but what you would look at from where you sit is that number increasing, and that talks to the first time registered voters, those that have been coming for the first time. And that number we will be able to tell you tomorrow for yesterday and today. As I speak to you now, the numbers are coming into the Commission. They are being put, received, online from through the database or through our network onto our database. But what is clear is that we did have a significant amount of people eating alcohol.
When you compare to other first weekend voter registration, what was different this time around?
Well, I think two things made a big difference. One is the fact that South Africans could register anywhere they were. In other words, the voter management device has made life very easy. You could go to any station, wherever you were, and your registration, if you gave your address, your registration would be at the station where you should be voting or where you ordinarily reside. I think that made a difference. The second one is that for people who were not able to come to the stations, they could do so online, and it helped. It worked, and that's where we see a very big improvement.
Right. Asanda, good numbers, I guess, from the first weekend bodes well. Hopeful that we can get good people, a good amount of people showing up, and that's important, is it? From now until election day, what normally happens in terms of whether you decide to vote or not?
Well, I mean, I think that, the IEC is to be commended, and also the political parties who took the time to remind people that if they want to see change, or if they want to keep the current government, the best way to do that is to put their vote, forward, and that starts with the process of registration. I think what a lot of South Africans miss is that we have, every 5 years this responsibility to vote, which is how we decide the government we're going to have. But we also have many opportunities in between the 5 years. And so my thing is to always remind people that it's not only, in 2024 or an election year that you need to think about our civic rights, but it's also in the period in between. And I'm quite happy to see that independent candidates are going to be allowed for the first time, and especially the number that has been given, which is 200 of the 400 seats, because that is definitely going to be a game changer, because for the first time, political parties are not guaranteed the kind of seats that they used to having, and we might just see some individuals come in there and really shift and change the way this is done.
Mr. Moepya, the Constitutional Court has yet to rule on the thresholds in terms of the qualifying criteria for independent candidates. To what extent is this disrupting your preparations?
Well, I must say we are anxious. That I must say. But Blaine, you have to. The court is dealing with very difficult issues. On the one hand, we really have to give them an opportunity to satisfy themselves that they are considering the matter carefully. The last thing we want, it's for a matter that's fairly well considered. It's not fairly well considered because every one of us is rushing. Truth, though, is we are out of time. We are very anxious because depending on what the court says, there could be a lot of work that we need to do. Work that we are doing at the moment. We are doing it at risk. We are not just sitting and saying we are waiting. We're saying, well, if the court were to come back and say, this is the situation, this is what work we need to do. If it were to say this is not the situation, this is work we need to do. But that's not the best way to prepare for an election. Our time frames are very short, and they're not negotiable. Right. So yeah, we are anxious, but we will exercise patience. We can only wait. There's nothing more we can do.
Let's talk about the work that you still need to do. And going forward for next year's elections, we will have 3 ballots, right?
Yes.
2 national and 1 for the provincial legislature. Yeah. If those numbers in terms of independent candidates go over 48, what happens then? Are we going to have 2 columns, 3 columns, depending?
Well, just to correct, it's until now we've had a ballot with a single, it's a party, party without having another party on the same line. If we get beyond 48 candidates or choices, let me put them that way, because it could be a party or it could be an independent, we'll have to probably look at a double column ballot. If it gets worse than that, we'll probably have to look at more than one-page ballot or a bigger size ballot. So these are things we are going to see for the first time at a time that would be very close to the election.
Are you worried about confusion on the part of the voter, which may lead to spoiled ballots in next year's elections in terms of not being familiar with the format, etc.?
Yes, one of the reasons why we say we're anxious is because once the court has decided, there's a lot of education we need to do. You can't do it now because there is no certainty. Any election works well when there is certainty, the rules are clear, they are cleared way before the time. Yeah. In this instance, we are racing against time, in a way.
Asanda, how much of on the back foot does, as we wait for the Constitutional Court ruling, how much of on the back foot does this put independent candidates? If you can unmute, Asanda.
So I think independent candidates are always going to be on the back foot because you have political parties that literally have a machine and usually would have had all their systems in place and would probably have, practiced the systems and used the systems in various elections before. And so they have experience, whereas independent candidates are going to be people who don't necessarily have experience of running as independent candidates, even though some would have been coming from political parties. And so they may not have the same machine and the same size of resources as the political parties would have. But I think that South African voters are and have declared that they're tired of political parties because it's difficult to hold individuals in political parties to account because they hide behind the political system. And so independent candidates mind are still, having in a way the upper hand against political parties because you vote for the person that you want to stand rather than voting for a political party that may or may not remove that person and swap them out with somebody else without your knowledge, etc., etc. So I think that they are technically coming on the back end, but when it comes to belief and trust from individuals who are going to be voting, I think they definitely have a higher trust than the political parties who are operating on a trust deficit at this point.
Yeah. Let's go to our digital audience, bring in Cornele Ndlovu to get your take. Just looking at the turnout numbers in terms of 1999, where it was around 90%. The last elections, 2019, 66%. Where do you think the issue lies in terms of getting people actually to cast their vote? Is it apathy? Is it anger? Is it despondency? What's the issues here?
Thank you, Blaine, and good evening to everyone. In fact, it's all of the factors that you've counted. Because when you look at it in 1999, everyone was just excited. It was a new democracy, and there was a collective intention when we're going to vote because we had just gotten our freedom and a lot of people were voting for the first time, those especially who hadn't voted in 1994. So as time went on and it having been the same party in power, and it's now 20 years later, and people are not seeing any difference, or rather all the things that they had expected from the ruling party have not materialized. So they've literally just been discouraged from registering, especially with the youth. If you look at the young people, a lot of them just see no reason to go and register to vote. And looking at also the work on the ground that has been done by the parties, it seems like a lot of them haven't taken up the opportunity to encourage people to register to vote. So there's, if you think about it, only a few parties have now presented their manifestos. There's still a lot of doubt as to what their policies are when you look at the big four parties. And when you look, when you ask the youth, they don't even want to vote for the big four parties. And there's still this hanging issue of the independent candidate. So all of that, and with also despondency, people are discouraged. And as we were sitting here, I actually just got an alert for load shedding. So all of those things, and people, I would say that a lot of the citizens have no reason to vote anymore now that we don't need freedom fighters.
Important point. Policy is good, but the other thing is feel as well. You know, whether you feel that you can trust a political party or a person in order to implement those policies. It's an important point. Maybe to this insert that might talk to your point, Cornelia, our citizen journalism feature, this time produced by Moepya. He met this 22-year-old first-time voter who tells him that he feels that his voice will now be heard. Here's the story of Mothalesville resident Bonga Moepya.
I took my ID to register for the first time in my life to vote. I was 18 years old in 2019. I didn't go out to register to vote because I was not much interested in voting by that time. So now I saw that I must take the chance to go and register to vote because I didn't see any changes in my community for the past 3 years. So now I took this chance to register to vote. So as you can see, the place I live around, we have trash all over, and kids, they play around the trash, they fall sick. We don't even have medical clinics nearby, so we have to travel a distance from here to go to clinics. They collect the trash maybe after a month or so. The level of crime in this area is very high. Kids can't even go out to go buy bread after sunset. The Zamazamas, they go around robbing people. Once it's dark, you can't even go out. There's no proper houses. We live in shacks. When it's raining, we even have a bigger problem with the rain. The rain can flood our houses. School uniform for kids, when they wake up in the morning, they wet. So we're having a lot of issue with the housing problem also. My voice was never heard for the past 22 years. So now that I'm registered, I hope my voice will make a change in my community. Maybe proper housing will be built. Maybe if we can have clinics closer to us, it might be better. And schools also. Kids are traveling a distance from here where we live to schools. I think that maybe my vote can make a difference in my community. As you can see, we're struggling, but I have hope that this vote will make a change.
All right, many thanks to Moepya for that insight. Mr. Moepya, having watched that, it's good in the sense that there is this eagerness to make a change. Elections, the anchor of our democracy, so it bodes well. But in terms of the despondency, what has the IEC's research said, and which age group is it targeting with regards to that?
Before I do that, I think there's something very important that comes out of that insert. I think we have to say this today to just make everyone aware. You take it for granted. Registering doesn't just get you to be a voter. It also provides you an opportunity to be able to stand as a candidate. If you want to make a change in this country, if you're saying you want to make a change, you really need to be registered, because then you can stand and say, I'm available, I'm registered, and I'm going to be a candidate.
Yeah.
And then you can influence the things directly from where you are. But if you don't register, you can't. And I think sometimes people think it is, you're called on to register just to go vote for someone.
Yeah.
You may actually be voting for yourself. But having said that, I think it's important. The research is showing us that there is an element of people, being concerned about what they call the democracy dividend. And saying that, it hasn't gone far enough for them. And so they think, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Let me say this. That is not true. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, in these elections that we are going into, every vote counts.
Right.
Every one of them counts. And in that respect, you're just not a number. You're very unique, and you do have a voice. And I think it's better to register and use your voice. If you're not registered, you can't change your mind later and say, I want to participate.
Will there be another voter registration weekend?
Certainly, we will have one. We will be looking at a number of considerations, and we hope that you will know about it sooner rather than later.
All right. We're going to go back to our guests, Asanda, as well as our digital audience in a short. We need to take a quick break. What are the factors that lead you to go to the voting station and make your mark? What are the hot button issues currently on the ground that affect you, your family, your community? Let us know at It's Topical, SABC. More after the break. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. The question we're asking you this week is, what's been your experience of the voter registration process in your communities? Service delivery issues, bread and butter issues, important, it's material. To what extent will it get you on your feet to vote in next year's elections? What are the drivers of greater voter participation? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Let's go to our digital audience now. Straight away. Lungile, you have your hand up. Talk to us.
Evening, Herman, also to the panelists. Yeah, you'll remember that the IEC, they have also indicated that 14 million of youth were unregistered. So one also need to evaluate what is the reason of that. I think there is factors which are also there, which the IEC must also work with it. You may find with the youth, there is a lack of political education. Another point may be lack of communication within them, because when I check on my side, I have used the portal registration. Today I also went to the nearest station and check. I found that indeed they will be voting. But other people also in the queue, they were not believing that they can register through an online. Hence I'm saying that there must be a proper awareness in each and every one. And another factor, which is a very concerning one, I think the youth are very frustrated in terms of the issue of your NSFAS, unemployment. Another thing, they don't get in empowerment. So how do you go and convince them? Because if they also vote for you, they are giving you a veto power. At the end of the day, you must deliver each and everything which you have said in your manifesto.
Right.
That's my...
Thank you very much indeed. I'll put some of those points to Mr. Moepya as well as Asanda in a short while. Tabang, let's hear your thoughts.
Good day, good evening, Blaine. There has been mixed reactions as to the climate around voting, and in this, especially in this election, the previous term has indicated we're in a situation whereby there is a bit of a legitimacy crisis in the country. There's uncertainty as to whether the political leaders are showing interest to the betterment of the country. So it is a very important section of the voting period, because now you get first-time voters, and you've also had a situation whereby the same political party has been in power for over a certain period of time, which has been really lengthy. So it's whereby people are questioning themselves of whether to put their trust again in the same system, or is it time to maybe put power in somebody else's hands? Because it is a right that the Constitution has entrenched to vote, and which people should exercise, because the consequences thereafter are really great if you do not exercise that constitutionally given right.
Yeah. Tabang, thank you very much indeed. I want to go to Neo Huto, but it's either you standing very still, brother, or your picture is frozen. Neo, can you hear us? All right, it seems that...
I can hear you.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening to everyone watching from home. panel of people and everyone. I wanted to firstly start by congratulating the IEC. Work well done over the weekend on what you have implemented. And now I want to also touch on the fact of the youth voter registration.
Yeah.
I would like to say that the youth have come to the forefront, but now we have to consider why do we still find youth people that are not coming to the front. We see factors like trust within the IEC. People still have doubts on the IEC. We saw local elections. People voted for parties, but now what did they do locally? You still find such factors that are influencing people's mindset. The youth of today is conscious enough to be aware of the political sense, the political knowledge they are aware, hence they be joining different parties that believe in their own ideologies. And now we see that there were strikes happening. For example, I think it's Alexander because of service delivery. Something has happened similarly so back then. And we keep asking ourselves that will people still vote while seeing what has happened? And we see that during local elections, something whereby people were stopped from voting on the day of elections. How do we stop that when going into 2024? It's such things that make people question voting within South Africa. They know the power of voting, but they still question whether them voting will actually assist.
Right. Now, thank you very much indeed. Talks to the issues of apathy. I'll come back to you, Mr. Moepya. Asanda, with regards to those hot button issues that drive people to go and vote, people understand, I get a sense, the importance of voting. But what are the drivers that will pick them up and take them to that voting place to cast their ballot? What are the hot button issues? Asanda, your microphone, please. Thanks. There you go.
As already has been noted, one of the biggest ones is load shedding.
Yeah.
The fact that we don't have a consistent supply of electricity, which in itself is also affecting the ability of business and therefore has led to some retrenchments, is something that's going to get people to go and vote either to retain or to remove the current government. The second issue is definitely unemployment. We see high youth unemployment, and unfortunately, the least employed people in South Africa are Black women, and so we're going to see a lot of Black women going to cast their vote because they are bearing the brunt of whatever policies or whatever implementation isn't working. And then another issue that we're going to see people going and voting for is the issue of immigration, which the government of the ANC has started to look at with proposals of overhauling the Immigration Act currently being spoken about and a white paper, currently in play. And I think, there's many other issues that are driving South Africans to want to go and vote. And one of the biggest problems that we have, I believe, is that the African National Congress, as a sitting government, has really amazing policies. I don't think we can fault them on the policies, but the problem has been the implementation, and the problem has been the lack of ability to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness and the delivery of those policies. And I think that, if the ANC just spent time ensuring and reporting on how the policies have been implemented, on how they monitor and evaluate, and what they found out from whatever research they do around monitoring and evaluation, they might fare better in the election that's coming. Because at this point, they're giving away votes to the opposition by the lack of monitoring and evaluation, and also by the high corruption, which, although we can see there's been some changes and there are some attempts to arrest people and to improve the situation, but it's almost too little too late at this point. With, as you've heard, people have a big trust deficit. They don't trust that the current government is going to be able to deliver for them. They don't trust that the politicians that they have voted for are going to continue to be able to sustain them. And this is also shown in the last election, by the way. It's not only the ANC that has lost votes, it's the ANC at a national level, and the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape also lost votes. So people are tired of the incumbents all round. And that's why I was saying that, the independent candidates might just be the biggest game changers, and they might just be the biggest winners of this election, because people are saying the people who are currently in government whether it's ANC or the DA, is not doing enough and is not doing what they need.
Right. Speaking about trust, Mr. Moepya, do you think the IEC is trusted in this stage of the game? I ask that because you might have seen the reports in the media with regards to allegations that the IEC is prioritizing hiring SATU members as IEC officials. I see a statement from SATU, and it reads in part that members of trade union, including SATU, have a right in law to be appointed as election officers if they meet the requirements. Your response to that?
And I think Neo raised an issue of trust that I wanted to address, but what you're raising is important. Blaine and I, we talk to political parties, we engage with them regularly. Last week there was an engagement with them. I'm almost certain there's going to be one again this week. We have a criteria, and I think it's an old story. We have said that before. We have a criteria which has been thoroughly consulted with political parties and actually discounts people who may be holding positions that are politically connected. In South Africa, an average person is very politically aware, and we have to recruit our members of staff from that pool. Right. So what do? We go and say, this is the best way, and we work together with political parties, we agree. And it's all done. We move and do the work. We then employ people. They can be objected to, and we'll remove them. Let's now go back one step. No one in this country will give anyone a database that says, here are my members, this is what they do. We have to have everyone seeing and being unable to have an opportunity to object to them. We do that. These people go through a very rigorous process. We don't know them, their affiliation. And so we ask for people to object to them. Right. The political parties themselves get given the names for 2 weeks or so. They go.
That's in the party liaison committees.
Yes, right? it works there. And the people that they know, remember the people come from the local community. They then can say, so and so we know does this and the other thing. We don't even argue. When we have the facts are clear, we remove them. So when we have a person that is employed by us, they've gone through that process. So that must tell you something. Right. Now, for SATU and others, we don't get to sit and talk to them. My appeal to them is that, I would ask them not to fuel this. Right. Let's deal with this matter rationally. In elections, perceptions are more stronger than reality. That brings me to the issue of
politics
trust.
As well.
Yes, it's the way it is. Yeah. When reality is this and perception is that, perception is always going to be valued above reality. Right. Now, trust in the Electoral Commission. I don't recall a situation where allegations of trust have actually been proven. I understand that we have to be held to account. We've never refused to be held to account. But to allege that you cannot be trusted when you haven't done anything to not deserve that trust, it's a little bit of a difficulty that we face. I want to appeal to people. Elections are emotive. They're a contest. Yeah. Let's be careful how we deal with them. But from our side, we don't take these things lightly. Yeah. We do everything to be sure that even when there is doubt, everything lies bare before people to see. That's why the results are such a transparent process. We get to know the results at the same time that all of you get to know. We don't get to sit in a corner and decide so-and-so must get this, so-and-so must get the other thing. And you can object from anywhere in the world because this is information we put live for you. Right. Now, when you raise the question of trust, are you saying there's no one interested in that? The contestants just lose without questioning things? It doesn't work that way. Right. They actually do check these things.
Cornelia, let's bring you in with regards to the issue of trust. Having trust in politicians and government is one issue. Having trust in a body that facilitates one of the anchors of democracy is another. What would you say in terms of perception on the ground about the trust factor for the IEC?
Blaine, thank you again. I agree with what Neo said earlier. There's definitely the deficit in trust with the electorate and the IEC. And if you look at it, especially with the past 2 elections that we've had, there's always that factor of votes being said to having gone missing. There's votes that are found somewhere being dumped, and nobody really ever addresses that. And when that has happened, and it has happened a lot with local elections as well, we never really know how it is resolved. So with the current election, it being contested so much, especially if you are going to now bring in independent candidates who don't really have the kind of presence that other political parties that are bigger would have of monitoring the voting stations to see that everything is going according to what the law says, and that there's no meddling with the votes. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them as well to trust that the processes were then conducted in properly.
Right. So if you want to respond to that?
Yes. Kwanele, I hear what you're saying, and I want to challenge you. In the last elections, when people, of course, are not happy with, or they fear that the outcome might not favor them, they then say, you've lost things. We ran 23,296 voting stations. If you have an accident or 3 accidents in a day, it happens. That's an accident. But it is not true to say that ballots get lost. People like to tarnish our names so that they have a little bit of room to say things have not gone well. In the last election, interestingly, we actually found a secure way of verifying pictures that went viral to say that ballots were lost. They were historical. And there were things that did not exist. I say, for the record, that when we have a situation like that, we are the first to tell the nation. And I can tell you, you cannot count those instances on both hands. You can literally count them on one hand.
Tabang?
Blaine, once again, I think Asanda and Kwanele have, hit the nail on the coffin. I mean, we were told, that democracy is, the rule by the people, for the people. But, what we have to question is, does it continue to be so? I mean, it is a really wrong time for the Electoral Commission to have such an image, especially at this given time. I think, and also with perception is really strong, because once people convince themselves that that is the fact, that ballots are getting lost and there's irregularity, the timing of it all is really problematic. And in this case, the Electoral Commission should be very careful in how it carries itself and then how it protects its image at this time, because it may feel negative connotations which may influence voter turnout at the end.
All right, Neil? If you can unmute Neil.
Thank you again. I wanted to touch on critiques that the chair has said. I believe the chair is stating to us that there's never been any historical event that has occurred with IEC, from what I'm getting. And
just go back to, I think you just broke up to that. What event?
To the events that have been stated by him, allegedly said that way. Rumors, according to him, I take it. And another thing that I just wanted to pose is, how funny is it that someone, people are voting because they're tired. It's not my mental trust, and they're just tired of the system that's been occurring. And it's funny, when I was on the grounds, I met a man who stated to me that last time they voted was in 1994.
Yeah.
So they still want to check if they're still registered. People have noticed that 8 years is a lot, and people who can say that are usually affected by, and people who mostly turn out to voting are mostly your middle class, right, your working class, of which are people that go to votings because they see the transparency, they understand what the importance of voting. But now, how do we get to those who don't see the use of He stated that they go through influential politicians, right? We see that we have party agents, right, within those scenarios. But now, also, ma'am, one of the panel speakers stated that what about independent people who can't be there?
Okay.
They don't have party agents like every other party. There's like 8 wards or 20 wards. How do I inspect that all that is there? I understand the chair is saying to us right here that no event of such has happened in the history, but now we are implementing independent candidates.
Right.
I surely tell them that the three parties won't have an influence of this, because they would definitely want to work together.
I've got a minute, less than a minute to wrap this up. So let me give the last word to Mr. Moepya.
I think I hear loud and clear, the anxiety that Neo and the team are having. Truth of the matter is, when democracy matures, people engage with it robustly. There is a part of that is true for South Africa, that people are engaging with our democracy robustly. And we are not worried about that. I think it is important. What we are worried about is the creation of a perception that says there are just so many things that go wrong, that in fact plays in the hands of those that are suspecting and therefore say, I'm not going to go. If this is true, I'm not going to go. Truth of the matter is, an election is a large undertaking. The whole country has to do certain things at the same time. A bakery doesn't deliver bread at 70 stores at the same time. It goes from one to the other. We have to open all stations at the same time. There's going to be one that may not open. The issue to gauge is how quickly and how we recover to get that done. And I can assure you, we do that really, really well in this nation.
So thank you very much indeed for your time. Time is not on our hands, but this is just one of many conversations, I guess, we're going to be having. Your media briefing is happening tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
All right, we will bring that to you here at the SABC. Two of my guests, Asanda, thank you very much indeed. Digital audience, appreciate your time as always. Before we go, here's my take. Elections, it's our anchor of democracy. And over the 2 decades I've been with the SABC, I've learned that people just don't vote on policy, right? No doubt good policy is extremely important, but people also vote on feel, whether they feel that they can trust a person or party to implement policy, whether they feel that their vote matters, whether they feel that by making their mark, they'll see a marked difference in their current situation. Earning the electorate's trust is important. You don't want to play with legitimate pain and frustration. You don't want to take them for granted. It's about doing what's right between elections that matters most. Get this right, and you're bound to see greater voter participation. And that's my take. Apologies for the voice again. If you missed anything, be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube. Sports Live up next. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.